The following program contains graphic material, including offensive language. Viewer discretion is advised.
All right, so good morning. Welcome to today's team building event. Today, we're going to be learning what to do in the event of an active shooter. We're gonna bring in a special guest. She's actually an expert on this, and she's going to be leading our team building event. This is Kaylee.
If there was an active shooter, you'd all be dead. When you talk out loud, the shooter can tell where you are and where you're hiding. Sometimes we play the game who can stay quietest the longest, so we all remember. You can try and protect your friends by pushing the tables and chairs against the doors. You also have to put a piece of paper over the door windows so they can't see in. And you can't cry. It gives away your position and your hiding spot. And if you're in the bathrooms, you have to stand on the toilet seat and crunch down so they can't see your feet and they can't see your head, so they don't know that you're in there.
That's crazy.
Try to listen for things that could help the police. For example, if you hear a lot of bangs like bang, 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 the shooter might be down the hall. Or if you hear louder ones like bang, 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 he could be right outside your door. If the shooter comes in the room, screaming won't do anything. You have to try and fight back. If you can't escape, we get taught the emergency window escape plan, where you have to break a window, put clothes over the frame, and climb through. Our teacher used to sing a song to make it easy to remember. Lockdown, lockdown, let's all hide. Lock the doors and stay inside. Crouch on down, don't make a sound, and don't cry or you'll be found.
Hey everybody, it's Jeff. Nice to see everybody out there. Hell of a day today, isn't it? The one thing that could knock the Trump hearing off the front page today happened, and that's the Supreme Court making their ruling to overturn Roe versus Wade. Not that it should be much of a surprise to people, because we knew weeks ago that they were already thinking about doing that, and now it's been made official. But I get the sense that they couldn't wait to release this this decision, because they were saying that they weren't going to have an answer for us until like the beginning of July. Okay, and here we are towards the end of June, and they just threw this out there, which tells me that, you know, they were eager to throw this out to the public. Okay, and naturally there's going to be a great deal of lamenting here over this, understandably. And there's this article here from Yahoo News, written by Ben Adler. It's entitled, "A Woman Will Have to Bear Her Rapist's Child, the Liberal SCOTUS Justices' Blunt Dissent to Opinion Overturning Roe." On Friday, when the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, the 1973 decision establishing a woman's constitutional right to an abortion, the three Democratic appointees, Justices Stephen Breyer, Elena Kagan, and Sonia Sotomayor, wrote a forthright response casting the majority's decision as a blow to women's civil rights. Quote, "With sorrow for this court, but more for the many millions of American women who have today lost a fundamental constitutional protection, we dissent," unquote, they wrote. Quote, "Today the court says that from the very moment of fertilization, a woman has no rights to speak of," unquote. They continued, quote, "A state can force her to bring a pregnancy to term, even at the steepest personal and familial costs," unquote. Citing laws that have already been passed in more conservative states and would now take effect, they warned of dire consequences in states that will now be free to ban abortion without exception for rape or incest, or when bringing a pregnancy to term risks the mother's health. They also suggested that the reversal of Roe may lead to the revocation of additional constitutional rights that have come from the same line of legal reasoning, including the right to contraception found in Griswold versus Connecticut. Quote, "Either the mass of the majority's opinion is hypocrisy, or additional constitutional rights are under threat," unquote, they wrote. Here are 5 key passages from the dissenting opinion. Number 1, some states will, in fact, some already have, ban abortion without exception. Quote, "States have passed laws without any exception for when the woman is the victim of rape or incest. Under those laws, a woman will have to bear her rapist's child, or a young girl her father's, no matter if doing so will destroy her life. So, too, after today's ruling, some states may compel women to carry to term a fetus with severe physical abnormalities. For example, one afflicted with Tay-Sachs disease, sure to die within a few years of birth. States may even argue that a prohibition on abortion need make no provision for protecting a woman from risk of death or physical harm. Across a vast array of circumstances, a state will be able to impose its moral choice on a woman and coerce her to give birth to a child. Number 2, some states will, in fact, some already have, pass laws that punish women who get abortions or others who get involved in women's pregnancy. Quote, "Perhaps in the wake of today's decision, a state law will criminalize the woman's conduct too, incarcerating or fining her for daring to seek or obtain an abortion. And as Texas has recently shown, a state can turn neighbor against neighbor, enlisting fellow citizens in the effort to root out anyone who tries to get an abortion or to assist another in doing so," unquote. Number 3, women's rights are being curtailed, especially those of poorer women. Quote, whatever the exact scope of the coming laws, one result of today's decision is certain: the curtailment of women's rights and of their status as free and equal citizens. Yesterday, the Constitution guaranteed that a woman confronted with an unplanned pregnancy could, within reasonable limits, make her own decision about whether to bear the child, with all the life-transforming consequences that act involves. As of today, this court holds a state can always force a woman to give birth, prohibiting even the earliest abortions. A state can thus transform what, when freely undertaken, is a wonder into what, when forced, may be a nightmare. Some women, especially women of means, will find ways around the state's assertion of power. Others, those without money or childcare or the ability to take time off from work, will not be so fortunate. Maybe they will try an unsafe method of abortion and come to physical harm or even die. Maybe they will undergo pregnancy and have a child, but a significant personal or familial cost. At the least, they will incur the cost of losing control of their lives. The Constitution will, today's majority holds, provide no shield despite its guarantees of liberty and equality for all, unquote. Number 4, this may be just the first in a series of decisions that roll back the right to privacy and gender equality. Quote, and no one should be confident that this majority is done with its work. The right Roe and Casey recognized does not stand alone. To the contrary, the court has linked it for decades to other settled freedoms involving bodily integrity, familial relationships, and procreation. The lone rationale for what the majority does today is that the right to elect an abortion is not deeply rooted in history, not until Roe. The majority argues, did people think abortion fell within the Constitution's guarantee of liberty? The same could be said, though, of most of the rights the majority claims it is not tampering with. The majority could write just as long an opinion showing, for example, that until the mid-20th century there was no support in American law for a constitutional right to obtain contraceptives. So one of two things must be true. Either the majority does not really believe in its own reasoning, or if it does, all rights that have no history stretching back to the mid-19th century are insecure. Either the mass of the majority's opinion is hypocrisy, or additional constitutional rights are under threat. It is one or the other. Number 5, the majority argues that women's rights today should be limited by what the Constitution's authors thought in a more sexist time. The majority's, quote, the majority's core legal postulated that we in the 21st century must read the 14th Amendment just as its ratifiers did, and that it is indeed what the majority emphasizes over and over again. If the ratifiers did not understand something as central to freedom, then neither can we. Or said more particularly, if those people did not understand reproductive rights as part of the guarantee of liberty conferred in the 14th Amendment, then those rights do not exist. As an initial matter, note a mistake in the just preceding sentence. We referred there to the people who ratified the 14th Amendment. What rights did those people have in their heads at the time? But of course, people did not ratify the 14th Amendment. Men did. So it is perhaps not so surprising that the ratifiers were not perfectly attuned to the importance of reproductive rights for women's liberty or for their capacity to participate as equal members of our nation. Those responsible for the original Constitution, including the 14th Amendment, did not perceive women as equals and did not recognize women's rights when the majority says that we must read our foundational charter, as viewed at the time of ratification, except that we may also check it against the Dark Ages, if consigns women to second-class citizenship, unquote. Well, there's a lot here to chew on, for one thing, in this reply. But the one thing that I want to say off the top of my head is that today, women have been brought down below the equality of men now, officially. I mean, we always knew it was there, okay? And people have always denied that they were doing this thing to women, unequal pay, sexual harassment in the workplace, the rape culture that goes on. All these perpetrated by men who mostly look down on women as less than equal to them. Okay? Is it a surprise then that a Supreme Court with men in the, on the Republican side would say anything other than that? Okay, really? The fact that this decision split down party lines just goes to show you that the Supreme Court is broken. And it's broken in more ways than just one. It's broken because they're thinking on political terms instead of what's constitutionally right. Okay? And it's broken because of old rooted bigotry, misogyny that's existed before I was even born, before a lot of you watching this were even born, and it's been there and it hasn't changed in all these decades. The fact that, in 1973 when Roe versus Wade was decided was of no, wasn't joyous thing for the Republicans who thought that women were getting another right that they didn't want them to have. Okay, the voting thing was way, too much for them. Okay, and there's still men to this day who don't think women should be out voting at all. Okay, but the fact is that women have less rights in this country than even black males do. Okay, and I'm not trying to make this into a racist thing. I'm just saying, on the surface, even a black man is elevated higher than a woman is in many parts of this country. So we've never had equality between sexes at all in America. And all the time that I've been around, it's always been under the surface that these things are, that this attitude and this misogyny has existed, but nobody would really deal with it. And it makes me wonder, after they made that decision about Roe versus Wade, why didn't Congress try to make that into law right off the bat? Why did they just sit on that? And for 50 years, people just assumed that what the decision of the Supreme Court would never be challenged or overturned. Why did they wait so long? Because now you see what's happened. When you sit on something long enough, eventually it's pulled out from under your ass. Because that's what's happened here. People sat on this Roe versus Wade decision too long. This should have been codified into law decades ago, so that way this couldn't have been challenged. Okay, you see what I'm saying? And the fact that our Supreme Court can now just change whatever fucking decision has it been made or ever been made since its creation, nobody should take for granted that anything they say is carved in stone. It just isn't. It just isn't, because they can, 20 years from now, they'll look back on this decision and say, oh, these people were idiots. Let's undo that. And then 20 years after that, another court will say, well, those people were dumb. You know what I'm saying? So what the hell good is the Supreme Court if you can't rely on them to uphold their own fucking mouth? Okay? These people are hypocrites. And not only that, they're a dysfunctional form of our government. We don't need the Supreme Court. We don't. Because the states have their own individual Supreme Courts to take care of what really matters in people's lives, and that's the rule of law. We don't need people on a Supreme Court to explain to us the Constitution. We should already know that as citizens of our country. We already should understand the Constitution. If we went to school and paid attention, we should already know what the Constitution says and means. Okay? We don't need 6 people or 7, whoever, telling us about where the bear shits in the woods. We all should know that, and especially lawyers. Okay? So why do we need a Supreme Court? The functionality of that court is so outdated, it's ridiculous. It's really a chunk of fat on America that we could have carved off a long time ago, and things would run better today, I think. Okay? If anything, the Congress should be the ones that decide what's constitutional and not, because their job is to debate these things, okay, to see, whether they should be sent to the Senate. Okay? That should be Congress's job, to decide, if what they're presented with for a bill is constitutional or it falls within that. The Supreme Court should have no say at all in what should be allowed or not. Now the president's going to have to go out and try and turn this into a law, something that they should have done way before he was even a member of the Senate. This should have been decided way back, okay? And right after 73. That should have been done right off the net. The following year, they should have codified that into law. But now, the Democrats been caught with their pants down, and now they're going to have to do what they should have done 50 years ago. Now they're going to try, in this political climate we live in, which we all know is a very divisive climate, they're going to have to come up with 67 votes in order to make that into law. You and I both know you're never going to get 67 votes. I don't give a shit how jolly the Republicans happen to be on that given day. It's not going to happen, okay? It's not going to happen. You're going to have to get Republicans to side with the Democrats. And right now, where the hearings are going on against Trump, the Republicans are going to use anything they can to get revenge on the hearings. And you know what that means. Okay? You know what that means. So we're going to be a whole generation more into the future before we even think about making this into law. This is going to be the new law of the land now, is this, or the new reality of the land. Depending on what states you live in now, that's going to decide whether your child or yourself will be able to have an abortion if the need should arise. Okay? And don't try going into another state and getting it done there, because if you come back to the state where you live, they're going to arrest you right on the spot. If they know that's what you went and did, they can arrest you, and then they'll try you to the full extent of their law. You know, whether that's a lifetime in prison, the death penalty, whatever the hell law they want to make, that's what they'll do to you. And they're perfectly, and now the Supreme Court said they're within their right to do it. Okay? That's the reality. This is the new America we live in now, folks. This is the new America. Today is the dawn of the new America. And I'm telling you, it's only going to get worse from here. Because right now, the Democrats are scrambling to try to undo this. At the same time, they're trying to undo a lot of other things, you know, that's been going on. But I can tell you right now, their efforts are going to yield nothing. Okay? The only way they could possibly get, 67 votes to turn this in there is when we come November, every single Democrat, and I mean every single Democrat, is going to have to get off their ass, get to the polls, and vote Democrat all the way down the fucking list. Okay? That's the only solution. Every one of you. No excuses. No laziness. No sudden religious conversions. No fucking anything at all that keeps you away from the polls. Get your ass out there and vote Democrat. Vote all the way down the Democrat side. Okay, that's the only way you're going to be able to give them the chance that they could get 67 votes to turn that into law. That's the only way. The only fucking way, people. That is it. It's a tall order, but it wouldn't be so tall if we had done this sooner. Okay, but you see what happens? All the apathy and everything that's been going on, in the Democrat Party has built up for years, and now it's come to this. Okay? The watershed moment, it's come to this. And I know every election cycle, Democrats scream, it's the big one. It's the one we got to do. Well, folks, this is the time. This is the big one. This is the one, because after this November will decide the next 50 years of this country's existence. Okay? And it will lay the groundwork down for, if it goes the way I think it's going to go, it will lay the groundwork down for a second civil war in America. That's where this is headed. Okay? If we don't do what we know we have to do come this November, we have to get out there and vote. And I mean vote in the biggest numbers ever, even bigger than when we voted against Trump. That's nothing. Okay? This is worse, because now it ain't just Trump, it's every fucking Republican now that's sitting in a seat of power. They're all Trumps now. We have to pretend they're all Donald Trumps. Every goddamn Republican is a Donald Trump now. Okay? That's the virus that Trump put into the system. Okay? He's turned every Republican into a mirror of himself. It's a clone war, if you want to call it. Us versus the Trump clone. Because I'm telling you, we really, our backs are against the wall. This is the beginning, taking away women's right. The next thing is they're gonna go right back to the voting thing. Are women 3/5 of a person, or should women have the right to vote at all? Okay. Laura Ingraham. Okay. Today you're just a bootlicker now at Fox News. You're less than Sean Hannity. You're less than Tucker Carlson. Okay. You're just there because they want it to look good on TV. That, we accept women. They don't like you. Okay? The men that work at Fox News, they don't think too much of you. You're just eye candy for them. And you know this, because we've already seen what happened to those other three bitches that were and we saw how they were treated. They were all loyal to the Republican Party until they started to find out what the Republicans were all about, and they didn't give two shits about a woman's right or any damn thing else. In fact, they covered each other's ass to their bitter end, you know, and that's the justice that they got. Okay. And Laura Ingraham, you're just another one in that story. Okay. And I know they probably sexually harassed you while you were there. You're never going to admit it, but I know that's happened, okay? Because if it's already happened to 3 different women, then you know damn well it's happened to her and many others that work there too. But they stay there because of the pay, and they put up with it, and they won't ever turn on them. But Laura Ingraham, you're a nobody now. You're a nobody because now your body is the property of the government now. More specifically, part of the property of the Republican Party. They own your body now. So in their minds, that gives them the right to treat you any way they want. If they want to rape you while you're at work, they can do that. If they want to talk down to you or take away your money or pay you $10 an hour to work, you know, that's all they're going. That's going to be okay to them, because now you're less than they are. Okay, you're less than they are. Joe Biden is more important than you are to them now, okay? So anytime you talk bad about a man, it better be a Democrat, because if it's a Republican, you're out of a job, okay? And God help you what they'll do to you at work. But you're nobody now, okay? Your days as being something of importance to the Republican Party, well, they're just going to give you that, you know, to keep you happy. But the minute you say anything that's against that party now, out the door you go. That's what they think of you. You're nothing. And that goes for all the other female Republicans out there. Okay, you're less than your husband now. If your husband is a Republican, now he's going to feel more superior to you. That might even spark, you know, more misogyny in the bedroom or whatever. You know that's how it goes. I mean, that we saw what happens to Republicans when they don't get their way on January the 6th. What makes you think that when they get their way, they're going to behave any more civil? Okay? No, they're going to be emboldened to be worse. That's what happens when you get a sick, twisted mind as a Republican. Okay? The more you give them, the more they abuse, the more they want, the more you give them. You know what I'm saying? It's a cycle that goes on and on and on and on. Before you know it, you got a country full of Hitler wannabes all running around trying to take each other's power, okay? When they've done taking away all the power from a woman, they're going to go after each other. So, you know, women in this country, you're going to have to look at your husband very closely from now on if he's a Republican, or even if he isn't. But if he's a Republican, you better start looking at your husband, your boyfriend, your brother, your father, and start wondering, if they support what happened today, do they really give a shit about you or not? It's time to really start looking at whoever the hell guy you're with now, and asking that question. And if you're the single woman looking for a date, I would stay right the hell away from Republicans. Any man that says he's a Republican, kick his ass to the curb, because he's going to be no good for you if you're a Democrat. All right. But even if you're a Republican woman, you're still going to have to wonder, because he'll court you now and promise you the stars and the moon. Once he's got you, after that, you're handmaid's tale again. You know what I'm saying? You're going to be wearing a red gown, and you're going to have to perform on request. Okay, that's what you're going to be looking at. So women, I'll tell you, you're going to have to really stick up for each other. And if there's any guys out there that don't agree with this thing, you're going to have to become protectors for them too. You're going to have to work with them to make sure that, you know, they stay the hell away from trouble, because these guys will get their hands on these women and corrupt them and destroy them mentally. You know, there's no limit to how far a man can bring a woman down. No fucking limit at all. You know, we don't want that, because this is only going to encourage what happened today. It's only going to encourage more misogyny inside the country now. You're going to see a lot more stories of women being harassed at work, harassed anywhere they go, okay, by men who think now that the Supreme Court's on their side. Okay, you're going to see a lot more of this happening. It's not going to be just about abortion. Okay, it's going to be about the way sick men look at women now. Okay, you think catching them on on the websites looking at porn, you know, is a guy away of misogynizing a woman. Okay, they were doing that in secret, but now they can do this out in the open, and if you bitch about it, you know, you're in trouble. All right, let's go to a commercial break.
Dear CEO, what's it gonna take for you to do something? Yeah, do you even care?
Climate change affects all of us.
This is your chance to do something good.
Approximately 40 feet. That's all there was.
I'm telling you, if Pence caved, we're gonna drag motherfuckers through the street.
As Pence was being evacuated, rioters started to spread throughout the Capitol.
40 feet between the vice president and the mob.
Bring out Pence! Bring out Pence! Bring out Pence!
Make no mistake about the fact that the vice president's life was in danger.
If I'm beaten and raped in the state of Texas, I have to give birth to the baby of my rapist. If I am raped by my father, brother, or uncle and get pregnant in the state of Texas, I have to give birth to the baby of my family abuser. This new law is so draconian that I can be prosecuted for having an abortion, and so can my doctors, friends, and family who advise me, or even the Uber driver who simply drives me to the clinic. This is madness. The same people who have been protesting and screaming, "My body, my choice," when it comes to the COVID vaccine, are now saying I don't have any control over my own body. Texas Republicans won't require a 12-year-old girl to wear a mask in school that may save her life and the lives of other children, but they will force her to keep a baby regardless of how she got pregnant, including rape and incest. I am a woman, and I have a constitutional right to make decisions for my own body. I am a woman, and I have a human right to refuse to give birth to my rapist's baby. I am a woman. This is my body. I am a woman. This is the United States of America. I am a woman. You do not own or control my mind or my body.
My body is my choice.
Shame on the men and women who passed this law, and shame on anyone who sits in silence while women suffer and die because of it.
This one is about the MAGA rallies, the presidential rallies that President Trump is so famous for.
He said every child's name that was shot and rang a bell for them. Now that is what a president does.
What about getting a department that can look at young men that's looking at women, that's looking at just social media? What about doing that, looking into things like that, and we can stop that way?
This is not about virtue cycling and signing.
Fear of being stigmatized.
Fake meat that grows in a Peachtree dish.
And there are 300-something million people, 400 million guns. You don't see that as a problem?
No.
Let me tell you the truth about the enemies of the Second Amendment. They are schooled in the ways of Marx and Lenin.
These are the exact same people that want to murder unborn children in the womb by dismemberment all the way up to birth. But yet now all of a sudden we're supposed to believe that they care about children.
It's the gun-free school zones, Tucker. Those are the biggest problems.
At the end of the day, we're going to look at the people who do these acts. We're going to convict them. And we're going to punish them.
Sir, you can't convict him. He was killed.
He's dead.
He was killed along with 19 children in the school behind me.
Hi, I'm Mike Crispy, and I'm running for U.S. Congress because we need to put election integrity first. That starts with ending ballot drop box.
He's a tough guy. He doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to run into a nest of illegal aliens that happen to like knives very much.
There has been still no evidence or proof provided that there was any sort of fraud in that.
Well, no, that's wrong. I don't know why you people in the media keep saying that, but that is absolutely false.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Welcome back, everybody. So, I take this thing to heart. Okay, this was a really important issue to me, because I imagine when I think about what's happened today, I think about my mother, and I'm glad she's not around to see this shit today, because it's shameful. It really is. And today, when I went out to get groceries, and I know this is going to sound like, oh, you're pulling this out of your ass, but I'm not. Okay. When I was pushing my cart around, this lady comes out from the side, and I just kind of stopped, right there, and I felt like that big, because today, that woman will probably isn't too happy with men right now because of what happened. And I totally understand why, and I just I felt like I should be extra kind than usual, but then I didn't want to be that way, because I didn't want to look like I was what I'm saying, looking nervous. Okay, but it affected me, because I have a lot more respect than that for women, and I and even though I can totally understand their anger about what happened today, I don't want to be considered to be like one of them, as it were. Okay, because I'm not, and I just think that what Republicans have done today, the male Republicans and the party in general, is so opposite of the way I think. And it's, you would never think people like that could exist unless they were living in the dark ages. Okay, because that's what they brought down today on the public is really that dark ages thinking. Okay, that's what that is. And if I sensed a progression of us trying to go back in time in this country, and now it's really apparent that that's what the Republicans want. They want to pull the reins all the way back to the 1930s. And even before that in some cases, and start over from there. Because to me, I think they look at those days as the golden years of America. That's what they like, and that's what they want. Okay, not realizing that perhaps if they get what they want, they may decide they didn't like it after all, because none of these fuckers even lived in those days. Very, very few people that ever remember those days of what it was like before, before the 1930s or something. If there's anybody that's still around, okay, they don't remember the time before Social Security and all that stuff, okay? But yet, that's what the Republicans want to take us back during the Depression years, and even further than that. Okay, so I want to talk about something else too, to change topics. A friend of mine had sent me an article to read about the oil problem, the oil shortage. It took me a while to get to it, but I finally I had time to read it. And as thorough as it seemed on the surface, it did leave a few critical things out of their analysis of why we're paying so goddamn much at the pump, okay? And I think these are important elements because it really does factor in more than they want to admit, okay? This isn't just an economic problem or supply and demand problem. It's about a corruption and a greed problem as well. Those things alone are motivating and driving, you know, everything else, okay? Let me show you here, and I put up this board here because I want to explain this in the simplest possible way so, you know, people can follow me, because I don't like to shower people with big fucking words and stuff like that, because that's just, this show is ordinary talk, and I want to keep it ordinary so people can follow my thinking, all right? Okay, what I drew here is, this is the ocean, this is the land. As you see, I put two oil pumps here to represent the oil pumps, and these are refineries, and these are the ships that bring in oil from other overseas and stuff like that, okay? Now, with two refineries here running, okay, and just pretend, okay, this is, you know, and then we got all this oil coming in from here, okay? So we got two refineries that have to process all the oil that's coming in from the ocean and what's coming in on the land, okay? That's a lot of barrels, okay? But we'll just say that, you know, the refinery puts out 1 barrel, okay, 1 barrel a day, and these bring in 1 barrel here, 1 barrel here a day, okay? So that means that these refineries can only refine 2 barrels a day. Well, that takes care of these two, but then what about these two? They're going to have to sit and wait, right? Wait their turn. So you're going to have 2 barrels, okay, a day, waiting in line to be refined, okay? Okay, so we have a surplus already. So we're still doing the same thing, and another 2 barrels comes in, okay? Another 4 rather. 2 more from here, which, since they're already 2 barrels behind, those 2 barrels are going to have to sit in the waiting area too. So now you've got 4 barrels and another 2 coming on top of that. All right, so now, while they process that, and they finally process enough to bring those out, then they bring these other 2, then you got these other 2 coming in, so you're still back up to 4 barrels waiting in line to be processed, okay? Now imagine this going on and on and on, and now the line is like, you know, now you got 50 barrels, okay, waiting in line to get in there. It says this is over a course of maybe a year, right? So you've already got, this refining power of just 2 barrels a day. Smokey, get off of that thing, will you? Okay, and now you got a backlog of 50 barrels waiting in line because these ships keep bringing in more oil than we can process, and that's the problem we have in America. We don't have enough refineries, okay? But then guess what happens? Oh, this refinery isn't working right. So now we're even down a refinery. Okay, we're down 1 refinery. So now this 1 refinery has to refine 4 barrels a day. Okay, which we know they can't because they can only do 1 barrel a day. So now this has gone up from 50 to over 100 plus waiting in line to get in there. That's why when I get on here and I say we are awash with oil, this is what I'm talking about. We have a ton of oil waiting in storage areas all over the country, okay? And you see these when you're flying in the air. They look these big round tanks. You see them all over in the major cities and stuff like that. They look just like this if you were looking at it from the ground across. They look like squares, but they're really round, okay? They're really round, okay? That's oil just sitting there waiting to be processed, okay? And they sit there. And at the same time while they're sitting there, you got stockholders who are sitting there wanting to make money. Well, if they can't make money because they can't process enough barrels per day for oil, then what do? They raise the price of oil, okay, which then translates down to us on the gas pump as higher gas prices. You see what I'm saying? So with this surplus of oil still sitting in our market here, you know, building and building, the president then decides, well, we're going to open up the reserves to bring down the price of gas. 1,000 plus barrels of oil now waiting in line to be processed. You see what I'm saying, folks? It's the refineries. We got to have more refineries in order to pick up all the oil that's been sitting there. You know what we've been doing with a lot of this oil that's been sitting there? We send it off to China, or Japan rather. Some of it's been going to Japan, to Europe. Okay, we've been shipping a lot of oil because we got too much of it sitting in our market here. Okay, we've been sending it all to different parts of the world, but we can't get rid of it because we still have this huge backlog of oil that's been stored up in here for months and years in some cases, waiting to be processed with this one little plant doing all the work. Okay, and these things are working 24/7. Well, at this pace, they're going to have to build like 10 of these damn things in order to catch up with oil that was drilled out of the ground maybe 30 years ago. It's still sitting in damn tanks in Texas and in other parts of the country. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. All the other talk about, oh, economic analysis and, you know, the war in Ukraine. I'll tell you about the war in Ukraine. When people are paying, as they are here in Maine, $5 a gallon for gas, okay, $5 a gallon for gas, and they're bitching, instead of saying, well, we got a surplus of oil, we only got one refinery, what they do is say, well, the war in Ukraine started up and that raised the price of gas, we have to compensate. Even though we were only getting 3% of our oil from Russia, okay, that's been adding to the surplus, okay, that's been adding to the surplus because we've only got one refinery, you know what I'm saying? I hope you're following what I'm saying here. The problem is a lot more intricate than the war in Ukraine and, you know, stockholders and all that stuff. There's a lot going on here that's contributing to the reason why gas is so high. They've been waiting for the right excuse to use in order to raise the price of gas. Ukraine was just a gift handed to the oil companies on a silver platter. Okay, now they have the excuse because, hey, it's happening on TV. People can tune on and watch it and see it for themselves. We're not lying. Okay, but the problem is the Ukraine war has very little, if absolutely nothing, to do with the price of oil in this country. We can still be selling oil, or selling gas, excuse me, at $3 a gallon. Okay, we could still be doing that at $3 a gallon right now, the way we were before the Ukraine war started. Okay, and we would still have a surplus of oil waiting to be processed. The only way the price of oil is going to change is if we open up another refinery. Okay, and we start refining more, then to dwindle down, whittle away on this. Okay, and when that whittles down to a point where, you know, investors are getting nervous because they're seeing a decrease in surplus here, okay, then the price of gas will start to steadily go up. Okay, but that wouldn't happen for months and months and months from now. If we were to open up, let's say we just snap our fingers and a refinery appeared, okay, we put another refinery to work 24/7. It still wouldn't happen for probably until like January. We wouldn't notice a dent in the price of gas. But as it stands right now, we don't need to pay $5 a gallon here in Maine for gas because they're making a huge profit, so big they're bragging about it, so big that Elizabeth Warren is out there talking about passing a windfall tax on corporations that are making huge profits like this overnight. Okay, and she knows why that's happening. It's because they don't need to charge what they're charging us. They can still make huge profits at charging $3.50 a gallon. They could still make huge profits charging at $4 a gallon. Okay, but $5 a gallon, that's way more than it's worth. That's way more than the oil is worth, and they're doing that because they know, hey, we got an unlimited supply here to go on and on and on forever. As long as we don't open up another refinery, we can still stick it to the consumer. But the second we open up a refinery, okay, and we start dwindling into our future profits here, we're going to have to start raising the price of gas. And that means, you know, people, the stockholders would be making less because we'd have to charge less in order to get this moving to meet the demands of the refinery. Okay, so there's a lot going on here, you know, in this little world I made here on this board here. Okay, and it's a part that I didn't see when I was reading that article. They didn't really think much at all. I mean, they did say a few things about refinery shortages here in the country, But what they didn't talk about is not just the oil that we're taking out of the ground here, but also the oil that we're getting from Saudi Arabia and all that coming into the country, okay? Oil that has been adding to the surplus of oil that we got here that's still been waiting for decades to be processed. It's been sitting in these barrels all along the country, okay? They're just sitting there waiting to be processed, okay? And that's one of the reasons. And these things, they just pump and pump and pump. They don't quit, you know? And they just keep adding to the, so we don't have to worry about an oil shortage, you know, like, you know, they've been saying here for quite a while yet to come, okay? We got enough in our system. But what we have to worry about is how much of the surplus oil are they taking away from us and giving it to Japan, Europe, and all these other places, because that's where more money is being made to the stockholders, is by selling to foreign investors. Okay, that's where the surplus, a lot of it is being going, because it can't just sit there forever. Okay, it's got to be brought somewhere. So they're selling it. So we have enough oil in our system, in our market right now, to give away to other countries to make profits for stockholders. Does that sound like, you know, oh, we're getting a drop of oil from these other countries to keep us going? No, that's a total fucking lie. What they've been telling us all this time about Ukraine and all this shit has absolutely nothing to do with the price of fucking oil. Ukraine never shipped us a drop of oil in all the years it's been around, okay? We never got one drop of it from them. What we get from them is wheat. They're the biggest supplier of wheat to the world. That's what they sent. That's what we would get from them, wheat. We never got oil from them, and we hardly got any oil at all from Russia. So people was sitting there fretting over that. Forget it, okay? That argument doesn't hold water, okay? Our problem is within ourselves, our own country. We are the problem to the reason why they're charging us $5 a gallon, and that's not going to change as long as their stockholders are happy, and as long as they keep making these big profits that they can brag about to make people angry, like Elizabeth Warren, and keep talking about windfall taxes. As long as that keeps going on, they're never going to lower the price, okay? The president can't really do a whole lot about that. I mean, I don't know what executive powers can cover. I don't think executive powers are going to allow him to interfere with a private business, okay? But if it's sitting on American soil, I don't know. There's a lot to debate when it comes to that. But like I said, as it stands right now, this is how I see it, okay? Now, if I missed anything along this way, or if I didn't mention something, then, you know, forgive me, because, you know, there's a lot here to talk about. But like I said, this is what I see, is I see that our country has a surplus, and we wouldn't be making these record profits if we didn't have such a huge surplus of oil in the market. We couldn't. We couldn't, you know, because our demand for oil, they would be opening up wells that have been closed for years. My father used to work for an oil company, and whenever they had these big drills here, you know, that would drill down and they'd hit oil, big oil here, what they do, instead of taking it out of the ground, they would just cap it. Put a cork on it, whatever you want to call it, and they just leave it in the ground until they need it. If you drive through some of the deserted areas of Texas, you're going to find fields of these caps all over the damn place down there, all over the place. Okay, we got plenty of fucking oil, believe me. There's plenty of oil to go around in this country. And like I said, it doesn't excuse or explain away anything about why we're paying $5 a gallon in Maine for oil, or gas rather, okay? Ooh. So, like I said, when it comes to the oil market, they love to complicate things. And why do they like to do that? Because they don't want people to really know why it's the way it is. They like to make it like a big puzzle that people can't understand. It's like when you talk to a Wall Street worker there and you ask them, how does the stock market work? They're going to give you this equations and all this shit and really muddle your fucking mind, okay? So that way you'll never understand. You can't walk away and explain it to somebody else, because they don't want to tell you. It's a big fucking cheat is what it is. It's a scam. They're scamming you through the fucking system. Just like they were scamming us through, like they're scamming us through the fucking oil, okay? Same goddamn thing. Gold and all that stuff, Same thing. Scam. Anything that's worth anything, they're going to scam people out of their money for. Okay? Just like the door-to-door salesman that used to do that shit years ago. They always had a fucking a pitch. Always something. Okay? The more things change, the more they stay the same, as they used to say. Okay? It's just the item that they're trying to scam with. The method they're doing it changes. Okay? But, you know, if anybody knew about Wall Street, and they knew about all the market crashes and who made money out of these things. Yeah. Nothing crashes unless they want it to. They get all they can out of something, and then they let it crash. And then they move on to the next thing. So, like I said, they got a lot of explaining to do. And unfortunately, we're not going to get the explanation. And unfortunately, a lot of people in the know are going to get away with it. You know, there's just no room for truth anymore in this country. And because we have no integrity in America anymore, and we have nobody that can really consider themselves to be honest, or the courage that goes to being a whistleblower, because we have a very big lack of that, America is spiraling out of control and plunging headfirst into the pavement. Okay? And today, with the Supreme Court thing and all that, is a big, another, like January the 6th was a sign, this is another sign. America's falling. Okay? It's falling now. It's only going to get worse from here. And if we get any more Republicans in leadership, especially the presidency, you're going to see new benchmarks, new guideposts along the way to show us we're heading in the wrong direction. How long is that? How many more road marks are we going to have to see before we say it's too much? I don't know. If today isn't too much, I don't know what is. Okay, because as it is right now, women should feel really, really pissed. I mean, right now, because now they're back to square one again. Because, like it said in the article, because of the dissenters from the Supreme Court, this is going to open up all the other decisions that were made over the years that were kind of based on the Roe versus Wade thing, that, you know, about women's rights and stuff. A lot of other things are going to be put into question now, and you know the Republicans are going to run right to it. Okay, they're going to go right for it now. There's nothing holding them back, and the only way, you know, we can stop it is to get Roe versus Wade into law. Okay, make it into law like we should have done years ago. It's going to have to be done now. If not now, it's going to be a long time before it ever is, because Republicans are going to make it so difficult to have that done now. They're going to defend what happened today to their last breath. Okay, I mean, they've cheated with the Supreme Court by packing it full of Republicans, like they tried to cheat us out of an election. Okay, you see what I'm saying? The Republicans always trying to attack the system, and when they tell you they're patriotic, you tell them, fuck you, you're patriotic my ass. Okay, you're not. You're the antithesis of fucking of what it means, you know, to despise this country. I mean, that's what you are. You're the devil incarnate, you know. And people who follow them, they're going to get what's coming to them, because eventually what they're doing now is going to fall. It's going to come back on them. Eventually, they themselves are going to start losing privacy rights and all that, and then they're going to be regretting all the things that they did up to then, you know, to backing that party. Okay, it's going to come too late, obviously, and who knows what this country is going to look like by then. It's like I said, America is not going to finish this century the same way it started it. Okay, it's not going to finish it, and I don't think it's going to be a very happy-looking country, to be honest with you. I think a lot of people are going to avoid America. They're not going to come to America for opportunity, because that dream is gone. That's shattered, you know. And a lot of people are going to be fleeing this country to go to places where they have a better chance at surviving or being treated equally in this world. You know, it's not going to be the USA anymore. All right, so I hope everybody has a great weekend. So please keep your eyes and ears open to any local COVID news. And if you don't know how to get that, if you have an Alexa app, you can set it to where you can have it tell you what the local COVID-19 news is in your area. Okay, it does that. You might be able to get that on your phone or whatnot, you know what I'm saying? So that's how you can get a quick access to that every day. And I hope everyone will subscribe and comment here. I'd like to hear your comments. And so take care, everybody. I will talk to you again later. Bye-bye.